pilgrimage to the church of Megalohari, the traveller of Tinos can explore the island's interior landscape, which to this date has remained unharmed by foreign interventions. The hiker will walk on the stone-paved roads and paths, enjoying the rocky terrain of the island's interior, with its skillfully built dry stone walls, constructed by inspired craftsmen who made sure they matched the environment. He will also have the opportunity to enjoy the remote dovecotes, embroidered with unique mastery by stonemasons and artisans, rural homes and chapels with ornate bell towers, and green streams that decorate the serene landscape. The following routes are but few of the many offered to people who love hiking. Route number 1. Falatados, Myrsini, Maganari, Livada Beach. Route number 1A can be taken by the hiker from Falatado village, ending at the Livada Beach. He could also choose Myrsini village as a starting point, which is marked as 1B. Falatados is the second largest village of Tinos after Pyrgos. It dates from 1400 AD and is a traditional village with narrow cobbled streets and many archways. Agia Triada, an enormous, imposing church with a bell tower, adorns the village. The village has an arts centre with modern and older exhibits, as well as a gallery with paintings by famous artists. At Falatados village, the Rakitsio festival is celebrated each year on September the 8th, and people gather from all across the island at the village's primary school. As the Raki comes out, the men who participate drink, while the women offer food. Dance and songs follow, with violins and lutes. We thus set off on our journey along the cobbled path from Falatados village. At the very start, we encounter two picturesque chapels. These are the Kimisi Tisteatoku and Aios Nikolaos. Further down, we see the Katalimata Square near the old aqueduct. The spring landscape is truly enchanting. On both sides of our path, we are accompanied by colourful flowers, asphodels, lilies, and anemones. We reach the region of Idakia. Streams with the clear running waters begin here, and they accompany us along Route 1A, and later at Maganari, they unite with the waters of Route 1B from Myrsini. This abundance of water runs down to the Livada Bay. A lovely olive grove keeps us company on our course. Here is the church of Evagilistria, a sensational combination of light and deep blue. The sound of running water continues to be our constant companion on the long trek. Oleanders are reflected in the sparkling streams. another quaint church by the path. This is Ayos Markos, of a simple Cycladic architecture. Water again, abundant running water. At Maganari, Path 1A meets the path of Route 1B, which begins at the village of Mersini. Running water is also the main feature of Maganari. It flows forcefully down towards the Livada beach. And a geophysical surprise. Giant granite boulders in the area of Livagia make you believe you have entered a land of mythical giants. and running water again, painted golden by the beams of the spring sun. We finally reach the paradise known as Livada Beach. This is a wetland habitat with hydrophilic plants and numerous ducks, happily quacking in their natural environment. And here comes a precocious little goat leaping in front of the camera. Here ends the long course of the waterway that starts out in Falatado and Mersini and rushes violently into the Aegean. After the traveller catches his breath at scenic Livada, he may, if he so wishes, continue his trek towards the neighbouring lighthouse. The same destination can be reached by starting off at Mersini village, which is located at the foot of Cignias. Mersini village is dominated by the traditional dovecote, complete with its embellishments, and of course by the running waters that will finally arrive at Livada. Route number 2, Xinara, Xomburgo, Koumaros, Skalados, Krokos, Taravados, Kambos, Lutra, Perasta. This is a long and tiring route, but worthy of the effort, because it will acquaint you with several of the island villages which you will pass through, as well as the natural landscape in all its glory and with all its expressions. The starting point is Xinara village, the seat of the municipality of Exomburgo, dominated by the magnificent building which is the residence of the Catholic Archbishop. At its entrance stands the imposing building, the seat of the Catholic Archbishop of Tînu, which has housed the municipality of Eximburgo in recent years. The Lord's Palace functioned as a theological school, and today it houses the archive of the Catholic parishes, the oldest of Tînu, and a museum of ecclesiastical relics exhibiting objects from the 23 Catholic parishes of the island and from other Cycladic islands. The traveller leaves behind Xinara and ascends towards Xomburgo, which throws its imposing shadow over the village. The panoramic view from the top of the castle is astonishing, while of great interest is the large marble cross erected in remembrance of the old church of Aia Eleni, which was located there. The area is magnificent. There is a Catholic monastery and the statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. In the background stand the ancient walls of the fort. Further afield, we can see the Roman aqueduct that supplied the residents of the area with water. The path then crosses the Koumaros village. After we ascend the steps of the settlement with the beautiful church on our right, we will rest at the unusual cafe. It has a self-service system. You make your coffee by yourself, or you cool down with a soda. And when you go, you leave 2 or 3 euros in a basket. We leave the cool spring of Koumaros and take the path for Skalados village, passing through the citrus crops. The architecture is traditional here as well, with pretty traditional houses. Close to Skalados, the little church of Banaia gazes down from a hill. The route continues towards Krokos village through flowers, fragrant fennel and running water. The village is built on a lush stream, offering refreshment and enjoyment to the passer-by. Continuing on the way to Taravados, you will have the opportunity to enjoy the unique spectacle of the ornate dovecotes, which are plentiful in the area and are among the largest and best preserved on the island. The dovecote builders use slate stones to create unusual decorations on one or more sides of the structure: diamonds, triangles, suns, cypresses, etc. These decorations create an immensely harmonious picture and have been appropriately characterized as architectural embroidery. Each one separately and all together are rare monuments, unique expressions of popular artistic creativity. And actually, only when architecture stems from such deeply emotional responses does it produce such a result. trek along route number 2 continues to Loutra village. It got its name from the baths, Loutra in Greek, that existed in the region in the past. It is immersed in vegetation, full of citrus orchards. It has a long history, since this was the location where the Jesuit monks and Ursuline nuns built their monasteries or nunneries. This was one of the most important villages of the island in the past 2 centuries, and was a religious and cultural centre. The Jesuit monastery operates a folk art museum, where one can admire the monastery's relics. The remarkable Church of St. Joseph is located here, built in a neoclassical Baroque style, with exceptional interior decorations. From Loutra, the route terminates in the Perastra area. Route number 3, Kechrovounio Monastery, Montados, Sperados, Tripótomos, Xomvougo. This route, which starts off at the Kechrovounio Monastery and terminates at Xomvougo, or vice versa, connects 2 peaks. Its start and end are located on the 2 hilltops at approximately the same altitude. Thus, anyone deciding to walk it must endure both uphill and downhill treks, which will be rewarding in the end, because despite the physical fatigue, this is a special route. A winding stone path begins at the monastery, which first descends the hillside, then to fields and countless terraces, the stables and the threshing floors, terminating at the village of Montados. Here the traveller has the opportunity to tour this pretty scenic village and rest, drinking water from its fountain. He will then reach the villages of Sferado and Tripótamo. These 2 traditional villages, with the countless dovecotes, stone-built fountains and chapels that surround them, enchant the visitor. After Tripótamos, the ascent begins, and it coincides with the ancient road to Xomvougo. The route passes through the ruins of the ancient city and ends at the foot of the rock that for centuries hosted the island's medieval castle. In fact, the trek may be concluded with a tour of the monastery of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and with an ascent to the fort, for those of course who have the stamina. Route number 4, Kionia, Ktikados, Poles, Hora. The starting point of the route is the archaeological site of Kionia, where the ruins of the Temple of Poseidon and Amphitrite are located. This is one of the most important places of worship in ancient Greece, directly linked to the foundation and the life of the ancient city of Tinos from the 4th century BC. It is the only sanctuary of the Cycladic Islands entirely dedicated to Poseidon, the god of the sea. According to testimonies, the god was also worshipped as a healer in ancient years, and during the Hellenistic period, there is a trend towards the worship of doctors or healers as heroes. Towards the end of the 4th century BC, the successors of Alexander the Great, and mostly the royal houses of the Antigones and the Lagides, held the fate of the Cycladic Islands in their hands and organized building projects, which probably included the Temple of Poseidon at Kionia. The path starts at Kionia, which leads to the traditional village Ktikados. This is a traditional village with a view of Kionia, with large houses decorated with lintels, stone-paved alleys and arches. The church of Timios Stavros is prominent at the village's entrance, with its noteworthy bell tower, which dates to the 17th century, and further away Megalomata, Ipapandi, with its unique marble entrance. The old fountain with the stone laundry basins completes the scenic image of the village. Route number 4 ends here, at the area of Poles. From Poles, the path continues on to Hora. Route number 5, Falatados, Volax, Gritsa, Sklavochorio, Agapi. This route leads from the Pano to the Kato Meri of Tinos, starting at the north end of Falatados and ending at the Agapi village. After the walker crosses through a unique landscape of huge granite stones, he will reach the village of Volax. This village is built in a landscape unique not only to the island, but to the entire world. The pure white houses with their flower-filled gardens stand among granite boulders, offering a unique spectacle. It is famous for its basket weaving workshops, unique to the island, and the aged craftsmen show off their art with pride to the visitors. A small open-air theatre adds a special note to the village, and there is also a folk art museum. The large and small boulders, which have given their name to this beautifully quaint village that is built amongst and on them, raise questions about and interest in the way in which they were created and shaped. Experts claim that the granite was to be found here. With the passage of time, however, and the resulting abrasion and erosion, pieces broke off. Their modern rounded shape is due to external factors, such as humidity, changes of temperature and the air. On the other hand, legend has it that this phenomenon was created by falling meteorites. On leaving the village of Volax, we meet climbing athletes in training, trying to conquer the summit of the boulders. We leave behind these foreign climbers and take the path to the idyllic area of Gritsa. This is an enchanting area. Running water everywhere. watermills used to operate here thanks to the power of the water. Flower gardens and fields with fruit-bearing trees, and here a scene worthy of a photograph, a pure white dovecote with wild flowers climbing the walls, rooting anywhere they can find a bit of earth. We continue along the path of route number 5, which leads to the beautiful villages of Sklavochorio, a small village well hidden away from the others, but with a unique view of the wild north side of Tinos and the village of Agapi. Noteworthy is the church of Aia Triada, as well as the wash house built in 1821. The great painter Nicolaas Gysis was born here, and his house is open to visitors. In 1865, Gysis received a scholarship from the Sacred Evangelisterias Foundation of Tinos and excelled during his 7 years of studies in Munich, pursuing his own personal style. In 1872, he returned to Athens and opened a painting workshop. 2 years later, he returned to Munich, as he was bound by his scholarship. He was praised by leading critics of Munich for his work, and elected Professor of the Arts at the Academy of Munich in 1888. We leave behind us the home of Nikos Gysis and take the path towards our final destination, the village of Agapi. One of the most traditional and hospitable villages on the island, spread across the hillside with individual architecture, archways, lintels, paved alleys, and a well. The stream and the well-preserved dovecotes invite the visitor to explore. There is a coffee house and a tavern, which is richly decorated with flowers. When you pass through the village, you may consider visiting the Museum of Christian Art. Route number 6, Steni, Potamia, Lichnaftia. Steni is an interesting large village of Tinos, the starting point of yet another interesting route. The village is located at the foot of Mount Chignias. The villagers are Orthodox and Catholic Christians and have been living in peace throughout the years. This is the start of path number 6. The landscape is a deep green riot of vegetation. Between two dovecotes, we can see Panagia Bonemeni. The first stop on our route is the sparklingly clean village of Potamian. Traditional houses, built one next to the other, adorn the village, the centre of which is dominated by Panagia Karmilu. Few villagers have remained here, farmers mostly, but there is an important association which organises special events in the summer. And here is a traditional xinara, as the springs are called in the dialect of Tinos. Running water welcomes us at the Kokina area, an opportunity to quench our thirst. New dovecotes emerge as we walk along, dovecotes of the Maruli area, where folk architecture achieves its best with elegant embellishments. The trek has reached its end. The pure white church of Chura Donangelon stands atop a hill. A guest house is integrated into the church, which also accommodates children. From here, one can visit the beautiful beaches of Santa Margarita and Faneromeni. On the horizon, we can see Mykonos. Blooming daffodils accompany us to the left and right. And this is the beautiful beach called Lichnaftias. If the weather is warm, a cool swim in the sea is a very good idea after a long trek. Route number 7. Myrsini, Prophetis Elias, Chiknias, Summit. The island visitor will form a complete picture of Tinos if, along with the other routes, he follows the one that leads to the summit of Mount Chiknias at an altitude of 726 meters, a mountain which has many myths accompanying its name. At Marmara, the circuitous ascent to the chapel of Prophetis Elias begins, to terminate at the summit of Mount Chiknias. Here the traveller is rewarded for his choice by the view that opens up in front of him, the whole of Tinos and the Aegean Sea with the surrounding islands. Route number 8, Diochoria Aios Sostis, starting at the Glisteni, the fountain of the Diochoria, 2 villages. The traveller can follow the old winding path and make his way down the hillside, with an unhindered view to the sea. The pastures of Mandalu open up before him, with scattered chapels and olive groves. A stop is required here to admire the landscape and see the traces of the ancient agricultural settlement. After Cunares, the route branches out in 2 directions. One leads to Aia Vavara, and the other a main route to the scenic port of Aios Sostis, with a lovely beach. Route number 9, Kaloni, Aitofolia, Koris Pyrgos, Stavria, Katapolianis Monastery, Platia, Pyrgos. The traveller who decides to set out on this long hike, one of exceptional cultural interest, from Katomeria to Exomeria, will have the opportunity for a unique experience, since he will become acquainted with the unexplored side of Tinos. He will start from Kaloni, a very beautiful village, which is also the meaning of its name. Kaloni means beauty. It is a large village on the edge of the green valley of Komi, with beautiful archways. It got its old name Kelia, from the monk cells that existed in the area. The famous church of Aios Zacharias is worthy of a visit here. It is one of the largest in Tinos, with remarkable pebbled yards. There is also the monastery of Aia Ipakoi. Even though the custom of pig slaughtering, chirosphaya, is common at many other villages, it turns into a festival here, and on the last Sunday of Carnival before Lent, the locals burn an effigy of the carnival. You will then ascend to Aitofolia, with a beautiful view and a quaint spring. This village got its name, which means eagle's nest, from its position. It is built high up on the hill. It retains the traditional elements of the islands and has a beautiful view of Katomeri. The new road, recently opened, links the village with Exomeri via the location called Diskoris or Pyrgos, one of the most ancient on the island. We continue on route number 9, passing through the area Koris Pyrgos. Stavria is next. A path leads to the picturesque monastery of Katapoliani. There is an exceptional view here. From the monastery, the path continues towards Platia village. Platia is on the way to Pyrgos and has a view of the north side of Tinos and the Sea of Panormos. The largest village of Tinos, and one of the oldest, it owes its name to an old Venetian tower in the area, which is mentioned in documents of the 16th century. It is surrounded by mountains, and it stands out because of its picturesque character and beautiful architecture. It retains the unchanged tradition of Tinos. This is the birthplace of many artists of Tinos and Greece in general, such as Yanoulis Halepas, Philippotis, Litras. The artistic imagination is evident throughout the village in all its magnificence and beauty, from the architecture of the houses, the marble door frames and lintels, the numerous decorations everywhere, in the surfaces of the streets themselves, in the fountains and extraordinary churches. Local sculptors, taking advantage of the white and green marble deposits abundant in the area, have meticulously decorated the village, which could also be characterized as an open-air museum. You may visit the Museum of the Artists of Panormos, the homes of Halepas and Litras, the numerous workshops of local sculptors, the picturesque square with a marble fountain and the ages-old plane tree, and the imposing churches of Aios Nikolaos and Aios Dimitrios with their artful decorations. At Pyrgos, you can visit the Marble Art Museum, which was created by the cultural group of Piraeus and houses evidence of the history of marble sculpture on the island. Route number 10. Kadiani, Isternia, Isternia Bay, Venedados, Pyrgos, Malas, Mamados. Kadiani is the starting point, a green village on the southwest side of Tinos, literally hanging on the side of the mountain, with a spectacular view of the sea and the island of Syros. The traveller walks parallel to the country road towards Isternia, a large pretty village with a view as beautiful as that of Kadiani. A stop is required here for a walk through the marble-paved narrow streets and a visit to the Museum of the Artists of Isternia and the ornate cathedral of Agia Paraskevi. If you have the time and are in the mood, you can descend the cobbled alley and its steps down to the Bay of Isternia, where you can enjoy a coffee at the cafe or seafood at the fish taverns. Otherwise, you can continue on for Pyrgos, passing through the quaint village of Venedado, which is located on a stream with plane trees. After touring Pyrgos, the largest and loveliest village of Tinos, the traveller initially crosses the old stone road that leads to Panormos and follows the uphill branch to Malas with the distinctive church of Agia Nagiri and the neighbouring monastery of Kyraxeni, as far as Mamado, the westernmost village of the island, with a lovely view of the Tinos-Andros Strait and Andros. So here, with route number 10, we conclude our journey through the paths of Tinos. What do you say? Get some light hiking shoes, grab your backpack and some dry food, take a walking stick, and wander through the unique sights of unknown Tinos. You will never forget your adventure.